Okay, welcome to today's lesson. We're looking at the TV show Black Books because this is how I usually teach English. I like students to watch a TV show, then try some of my exercises, and if you're interested in looking at my exercises on grammar and vocabulary from each episode, I have written an ebook for all 18 episodes of Black Books. I think it's about 50 or 60 PDF pages long. The script is about size 14. So please, you can go to my website and buy that if you want to. But this is just for everybody. This is for my students and anybody else who wants to watch this show and practice. So it's designed to go with the ebook, really, but you can watch it anyway. Now, the first two episodes we repeat tenses. And this is because it's aimed at intermediate learners, and this is probably the most important piece of information, most important piece of grammar you can learn as an intermediate learner. And once you learn it, it does make things much easier, which is the difference between present perfect and past simple. The easy way of understanding this difference is by looking at signal words. Signal words like when, ago, last week, and in 1995, they indicate one moment in the past with no connection to the present. All of these words just indicate one finished moment, and that's why we use past simple, whereas all of these words indicate an unfinished period which started in the past and still continues now. And so these words we use present perfect, which is have or has, and the third form. So the simple way to learn how to use these is just to get used to speaking with these signal words in the correct tense. So I have some questions for you using some of the vocabulary from episodes 1 and 2 in Black Books. So you remember that Bernard was deferring his tax return. To defer means to put off in a phrasal verb. He was deferring his tax return, or trying to defer his tax return. And firstly, I want to know if you have ever deferred your tax return. Maybe you have never deferred your tax return, in which case do say it. Practice speaking this grammar. I have never deferred my tax return. Always speak in full sentences when you're learning a new language. Okay, so have you ever deferred your tax returns? Another bit of good vocabulary was punch. When was the last time you punched someone or someone punched you? So punch obviously means hit with a fist. When you turn your hand into an attacking object, it becomes a fist. Okay. Next, how many times have you filed your tax return? So how many times is a signal for present perfect? How many times? And if you say how many times, like twice, 3 times, 4 times, you usually need present perfect, yeah? I have been to Greece 3 times. I have read this book twice. So how many times have you filed your tax return? When did you celebrate your last birthday? Celebrate's another good word. When did you celebrate your last birthday? So remember, we use when did because when is past simple. So when did, never when have, never, never, never. Okay, have you ever made a bet and won? Have you ever made a bet and won? So you make a bet, yeah? Maybe you go to the bookmakers, you like a horse or you like a particular football team, you put £20 on that football team, you check the odds. Hopefully you get good odds, which are the chances of your football team winning, or your horse, and you make a bet. Okay, so have you ever made a bet and won or lost? Tell me about it. And lastly, did your teachers at school think your handwriting was indecipherable? So this was when you were at school. It's a finished period, so please answer in past simple. Was your handwriting indecipherable? Indecipherable, a good word there from the episode, indecipherable. Okay, it means you can't read it, it's illegible. Illegible is another word which means indecipherable. Okay, that's enough with those tenses. Let's move on to past tenses now, which is very important for doing any kind of retail. And obviously I have other videos on this tenses. If you want to know more details, go to those videos, which I'll link to somewhere here. But past tenses, we've got past simple, past continuous, past perfect, past perfect continuous. I've got a little timeline here to remind you that past simple is 1, then 2, then 3. So it's one thing, then the next thing, then the next thing in the past. That's all past simple is. And I've put and then because it's 1 and then 2 and then 3. You'll never see and then and past perfect because it's the next thing and then. So I've got an example here. The student insulted me. I hope you remember this word insult. It's the same as offend. When the student insulted me, so I punched him. Now, of course, I have never done this before in my life, but fortunately, students have never insulted me. I can't think of any times at the moment. But I hope you can see that this is number 1, and this happened next, number 2. So it's like 1 and then 2. He insulted me, number 1, and then number 2, I punched him. Okay, on to past continuous. This really means in the middle of something. It's very common with this word, while. It's like a signal of past continuous, so another signal word there. Make sure you remember it. So the student insulted me while I was teaching. It means in the middle of teaching. That's all it means. It means the same as this diagram here, where 1, he insulted me, and number 2, I was teaching. It's at the same time. Okay, on to past perfect. The student insulted me because I had provoked him. Now, I hope you understand that first I provoked him. So this is happening first. Number 2 is happening first. And number 1 is happening second. So on our timeline, we've got... have I written this correctly? Yeah, number 1 happens later than number 2. I hope you can see that. Number 1 is a finished action which happens later than number 2. Now, past perfect continuous is very similar. The student insulted me because I had been drinking the night before. Again, I have never done that, I can assure you. But here we've got a verb which is very continuous. Drink is a long continuous action. It's not like one provocation. It's a long period of drinking. So I need to use past perfect continuous here, which is earlier but a long process. Earlier than the student insulted me. So I hope that makes it clear, those 4 past tenses. I hope you can see them. If we look at 3 quick questions, just very quickly. I was hounded by salesmen. This was from the episode. I hope you recognise it. I was hounded by salesmen while, okay, there's the signal, while I was looking. Of course, was looking. It should be was looking, it must be was looking, because we were in the middle of looking for shoes when we were hounded by salesmen. Okay, number 2, I had a sharp pain in my stomach because I eat ice cream all day. Now, it's clear here that the eating ice cream happened earlier than the sharp pain. Eat, like drink, takes a long time. It's a long continuous process. So it's much better here to use past perfect continuous. Had been eating ice cream all day. Okay, and number 3, I deferred my tax return because I not save. Now I hope you can see that first you save first you don't save, and then second you defer your tax return. So I hadn't saved. We need here hadn't saved enough to pay it. Okay, I hope those 4 tenses are clear now. Please remember that with reported speech, so when you're retelling this to me, if you're my student, please remember that Bernard said that he, very often now we'll use past perfect, hadn't finished. Not always, but very often this is before he said something. So please be aware that these 2 tenses are very common in reported speech. When you say Bernard said, or Fran told Bernard, or Manny explained, very often with these verbs you go back into past perfect after that past simple. Okay, I hope that's all clear. Please, if you have any questions, put them under the video. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.